All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if I'm going to put this on YouTube or Patreon, but either way it goes, it's going somewhere. Throw this gun out. Listen, I've been having a lot of people making contact with me because I spoke about this particular community. 19 families, 19 melanated families, black families got together and bought some land down in Georgia, which I think is the ultimate thing to do. You know what I mean? If you can find, my deal is you can find people of like precious faith. But anybody is trying to do that and trying to build a community and do this community literally outside of the system, my hat's off to them. Only one problem though. Anytime, first of all, I've been doing this for over 25 years. And I have, 10 communities that I'm running. And I have leaders in each one of those communities, something like that. And I think what people miss out on more than anything is that whenever you are going to get together with some people, there has to be a structure. Somebody wants to be the chief, but nobody wants to be the Indians. And even at that, in this type of structure, the chief has to literally almost behave like an Indian, be like an Indian. And I hope I'm not offending nobody, because today people are so sensitive nowadays with these emotions and feelings and wordplay and pronouns and every damn thing else. But you're gonna have to have a governing structure. That's like, for instance, I know most of us, we grew up here in society and we don't realize that in every aspect of society we have a hierarchy. Even when you go to a job, you have a hierarchy. For instance, we have a president of the United States. He's like the king. We don't want to mention that. We don't like that because we're a republic. But the truth is, he's like the king for a time being. And then you have in each province, or what they call states, you have governors. Governors who are in that position and don't want to give up that position because they're ruling over that particular state. So the president rules over the 50 states, and then you have the governors individually over each state. Am I making sense now? And then in those states, you have mayors, county mayors and all this other stuff. You have sheriffs, you have a police force, all right? So in other words, the structure has always been there. Even when you get in the military, same thing. Fire department, police department, makes no difference. Retail, you always have a structure of leadership no matter where you're going. It's just that when you get into doing something in common unity with people and you start talking about faith, nobody wants to obey nobody. Nobody wants to be subject. That's a good word. Nobody wants to be subject to the leader or anything like that, because you have to have a structure. You have to have it set up. And the truth is, this is not a democracy where the people turn around and take a vote and then people determine who's going to be the leader. You have to be able to know and have the intelligence enough to know who's able to lead, because leading is not easy. As a matter of fact, it's a hell of a lot more peaceful and a hell of a lot more easier to follow than to lead. Because when you lead, you have a greater responsibility on you because you have a lot of people that you're accountable for. Now, the definition of leadership is being able to lead in such a manner and a way and make it such a process that you can influence people to be able to accomplish any mission or any task at hand. That's what leadership is all about. You have to be able to also have some type of contributing motivation factor in it. And one of the greatest ways to motivate people, unlike this constitutional republic in here, which is probably one of the most hypocritical systems that there is, one of the greatest ways to lead is to lead out front. In other words, lead by example. You can get a hell of a lot more out of people when you're out there literally with them, getting the job done and leading while you're getting the job done, as opposed to sitting up in some type of office drinking Folgers and all kind of other coffees and everything else. Well, the wind is blowing. Folgers and coffees and every damn thing else, and barking out orders and stuff, because ultimately you're not going to get too much respect from people, because in the American spirit right here, I'm going to tell you how it is in case you don't live on community. If they don't see you out there working with them, the spirit starts coming on them and they start worrying about, instead of what they need to be doing, where's everybody else at, what they're doing, and all this whole other stuff, rather than paying attention to the job that they have in hand. So what am I saying? I'm saying is that there are people, believe it or not, and the Bible even talks about this, there's a certain pleasure that you get out of doing labor. There's a sense of accomplishments that you get when you do something. But when you lazy as hell and you always looking for the shortcut, shortcut and you're looking to drag down jobs and stuff, you have the most oppressive regime that there is concerning spirituality and the mindset, because you're so concerned about what everybody else is doing that you ain't doing, and you're afraid you're going to end up doing more than the next person and stuff, and then that spirit just jumps all over you, and it makes for a bad environment. It really truly does. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Come and give us some commentary, Brother Bud, on what we're talking about. I'm trying to show you what it takes in order, right here so you can see in the camera.
Yes,
I'm trying to get some commentary so you can be able to comprehend and understand what I mean when it's concerning leadership. Can you speak to the dragging down lethargic spirit that would actually bring about a bad spirit upon the community, especially when you are trying to accomplish a mission?
Yeah, like you said, it's looking outward. Everybody's looking at this guy. It's like, well, I'm working harder than him. Nobody's striving for righteousness. Nobody's striving to do right. They're comparing themselves among themselves, and that ain't wise. And yeah, once you got one guy doing this and he starts grumbling, then now the next guy's got this spirit on him and he starts grumbling. If we just all strive to put a good effort every day, you know what I mean, just to accomplish something.
Because there is a certain pleasure you get from labor. Now, if you are just worrying about the type of job you can do it with a spirit of excellency without trying to look over your shoulder or being enticed or tempted about looking over your shoulder. Don't get me wrong. You're always going to have those pieces of shit that always going to try to ghost. That means we call it Casper. That means they'll leave something, they'll come up with something, they'll drag shit down. They'll want to try to make this spirit try to leech off and get on to somebody else and stuff. But when someone has a strong work ethic, they don't need nobody around. They don't need anybody to look over their shoulder, because just for the simple fact of the matter that they have a work ethic that will stay with them for the rest of the days of their life. They'll spend their days in joy and happiness and peace rather than sorrow, misery, and depression. And that's just a fact. That's just a fact. So if you're going to be doing something like communities, community environments and setting stuff, a lot of people got a mouth, it runs. Everybody think their opinions is valid, and everybody's got the solution to every damn thing until they get into the position of leadership. Then it's totally different, because there are things that are subject to change. And the biggest thing that makes things fail in the communities and stuff is that when people are not in one accord, in one mind, one heart, one soul, one spirit, and there's a lack of communication. Communication is the exchange of flow of information from one person to another. There has to be clarity, because there are things that will change. There are things that change in the environment and stuff. The weather may change. I mean, we've been out here wanting to lay block and stuff, but then we'll lay block a day or two and it'll rain for 5 days. That's changed everything. So it pushes everything back. Elements and things outside our control. But you have to find people of like mind. You have to find people that they don't mind being told what to do, because truth is, we're all being told what to do. All right, I'll give you an example. If you have a family and you're getting ready to have a baby, guess who's getting ready to tell everybody what to do without being able to communicate one word? That baby is. Everybody going to be subject to that baby. That baby is going to be the ruler of the universe for at least 2 years. I'm telling you, that baby, as soon as it cries, people going to be losing their pants and their panties and every damn thing else to try to accommodate the baby, because it cannot do for itself. It just simply can't do it. But you have to train that child that it gets to the point where it can. Some people learn from the experience. Some people don't learn from the experience. Some people, as they get older, they get worse. Some people, as they get older, they get better like fine wine. What do you say?
When you were talking, I was just thinking, don't let base people
Base
set
minded.
your standard. And that's what you do when you look to another brother and you stop working. You're not working as hard because of him. Don't let base people set the standard of what is right for you. I mean, raise above it. Set the standards yourself.
Hey, when I first started this community out here, we used to work from the time that the sun got up till the sun went down, and I did that on purpose just so I could get people to quit, because you don't want bad people around you. And now you wouldn't believe, all these many years later, you go 2 decades later, you ought to see some of the places that these murmurers and gripers and complainers are in, as opposed to where we at today. It's sad, and you ought to see the condition of their health too as well. It's just sad. You see, so when you adopt a philosophy that is foreign to the concept of actually making a community that's going to succeed for not only you, but for the generations to come, you're going to end up succumbing to that same spirit and end up being just like the world out here. People can't even see the writing on the wall. If I tell you that there's a food shortage, damn it, there's a food shortage. If I tell you that these jobs ain't coming back again, they ain't coming back again. You have to make adjustments. You have to have the ability to be able to see afar off in order to preserve the people that you say you love and that is around you. But you have to have leadership, and everybody is not a leader. You have to be able to point out and determine and know which one's a leader. And a leader, just because you're a leader, that don't mean you the be all and end all and the sum of all wisdom. You also have to have